authorities, and because they decide on priorities and criteria. As disabled people and carers, we've known for decades that the social care system has been a bit of a shambles and a postcode lottery. And people have really struggled due to local authorities and their resistance to change slow down. To me, it appeared that the system was set up for their convenience instead of prioritising recipients of social care. The rigidity of frameworks and draconian criteria for eligibility have been at the heart of this resistance to change. And when change is enforced on local authorities, well, they did it in Scotland anyway, they found a way to either water down or simply ignore the legislation altogether. That happened when direct payments were introduced in Scotland in 2003. I was one of half a dozen disabled people that qualified as Direct Payment Scotland trainers that went around the country, advised local authorities how to set them up and how to set up their statutory local support organisations. The social workers then, by legislation, had to inform current recipients of social care about direct payments and for anybody that was new to social care about direct payments and the positive aspects of it. Just never, ever happened. I would say it maybe happened on less than 10% of occasions, as far as I can tell. The two main reasons for that was social work wanted to keep control of disabled people's lives. And the other one was that social workers were afraid of change and afraid of losing jobs. Well, as we know, it's not about losing jobs, it's about working differently and transferring some control to disabled people themselves, social care recipients themselves. So fast forward today, enough about the past. We now have self-directed support with 4 options, and option 1 being direct payments, which is the cornerstone of self-directed support. The uptake is much better than direct payments was back in 2003, but we're still a long way from maximising the potential of self-directed support. Everybody agrees on that in Scotland. It's a great opportunity, but it's just not working the right way or fast enough. So after a huge amount of pressure, the Scottish Government entered into a co-production with disabled people and their carers to investigate and report on the future of social care in Scotland. They formed Inclusion Scotland formed the people-led policy panel, and to be a member of that, you've got to have experience of either being a carer or in receipt of social care. And there were around 50 of us originally at the first meeting. That was whittled down to 20 in a core group that wanted to actually take ahead the work. The other 30 wanted to be kept informed and at key points told about what was going on, and they could give us their input to it. But basically it was around 20 of us that took forward the work. We were skeptical about this co-production because we hadn't had a lot of good examples over the years of true co-production. And were we being set up to fail yet again? Well, the answer to that was actually no. Because we sat across the table, well, around the table with Scottish Government officers, representatives from COSLA, well, that's the Confederation of Scottish Local Authorities. All 32 local authorities are members of COSLA, and they represent their interests at Scottish Government. NHS Scotland and the Alliance for Health and Social Care Scotland, and that's where I was at their annual conference just before I came here. For those that require support to participate, Inclusion Scotland received funding from the Scottish Government for that and ensured that the support was in place for them to take a full part in what the people-led policy panel were doing. Told you about that bit. After introductions and a bit of background work, we started work in earnest in 2019. And by the beginning of 2020, we'd split up into 5 working groups, each involving a Scottish Government officer, an officer from COSLA and NHS Scotland. And we looked into the different aspects of social care. for my sins, I was elected to be a member of the group that was looking into the future financing of social care. Well, that was going to be fun. However, a couple of months later, as we all know, everything came to a grinding halt. And the pandemic restrictions meant that work stopped for a few weeks until we got our bearings and got online and began to work together again. And although it disrupted the work, there were plans being made by the group, and we carried on working through the pandemic. And we remained solid and together, with the most used phrase in the English language at that time being, "You're on mute." So we kept in touch and undertook some work that brought us closer together, actually, and informed us of what was happening throughout the difficult period of restrictions. Then on Tuesday, the 1st of September 2020, the First Minister of Scotland announced there would be an independent review of adult social care in Scotland as part of their programme for government. The review was chaired by Derek Feely, a former Scottish Government Director General for Health and Social Care, and he was Chief Executive of NHS Scotland. Mr. Feely was supported by an advisory panel of Scottish and international experts, the Expert Advisory Panel. The main aim of the review is to recommend improvements to adult social care, of course, primarily in the terms of the outcomes achieved by and with people who use services, their carers and their families, and the experience of people who work in adult social care. The independent review ended on the 31st of January 2021, and its report, together with the accompanying short films, published on the 3rd of February. With only 4 months to investigate and consult on the future of social care, it was a massive undertaking, as you can probably appreciate. You know what social care, your fingers in every pie. So only 2 days after the First Minister announced the review.
Sorry, Alex, can I just ask you to slow down ever so slightly, if that's okay?
Sorry, yes, I apologize.
No problem. Thank you, Alex.
I'm trying to get through as quickly as I can so you can catch up. Sorry. Yeah, okay. That was a massive undertaking. However, only 2 days after the announcement by the First Minister, Derek Feely met with the People-Led Policy Panel to be in the consultation. He was asked from all the groups in Scotland, why did he want to meet with the People-Led Policy Panel? And they said, well, you've been working on this for over 2 years, and there's no point in me reinventing the wheel. Derek was supposed to meet with us for an hour. He actually stayed for an hour and 40 minutes. And just before he left, he was asked 2 very important questions. Firstly, I asked him, will the review and the report be taking a human rights-based approach? And we were assured that it would. And the final question was the stinger. He was asked by one of my colleagues, why do you have no one on your expert advisory group who actually receives social care or experience of having received social care? That threw him for a second or two. And he said, okay, I'll have a look at that. Within 3 days, we got an invitation to send one of our representatives to the expert advisory group. And I know the work that Jim did on that was just first class. The review had 53 recommendations, and the People-Led Policy Panel were delighted that we could actually identify the points that we put to Derek Feely dotted right throughout the report. And we're specifically pleased to see that the very first chapter of 10 of the 53 recommendations were on human rights. However, the really interesting part as far as social care is concerned for the future is that the report stated that there should be a national care service, and that is actually currently in process of being set up. It's, as you can imagine, it's supposed to have the same status as a National Health Service. So this is going to be a massive job. It's not going to happen overnight. But we've also been told that just because it's going to take a while does not mean that we cannot make the improvements that are already within the report recommendations and build up towards the National Care Service. So we can start on those now. In Scotland, we're also designing our own human rights bill that will incorporate a number of international human rights treaties, including the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I'm heavily involved in human rights in Scotland, having been a member of the Scotland's National Action Plan for Human Rights since 2013. And I'm also a member of the Scottish Government's Lived Experience Board. And we're using our experience to help influence the design and the content of the board. They set up three boards. One was the executive board, which sounds like it's in charge of things. Well, it's actually not. It's the public bodies themselves. There's the advisory group, which is civil society organisations, and the lived experience board, of which I am a member, one of 35, and the name speaks for itself. We have been assured that each of the groups will have the same influence on what goes into the bill as any other, and we're looking towards setting up joint meetings between the groups. We see all their paperwork, they see all ours. So it is more of a co-production than we've seen in the past. One of the big problems that the Convention of Local Authorities, Scottish Local Authorities, has with the National Care Service is that local authorities will no longer be ultimately accountable for social care provision. That will come under the remit of a Scottish minister from the government, and they are not best pleased, let me tell you, about that development. But following the removal of COVID restrictions, the people-led policy panel is now getting back to work, and instead of focusing on social care within the existing social care structure, we're now looking at social care provision within a national care service. So our remit has slightly changed, but we've received funding for the next 2 years to carry on. And I'm sure because it's going to take such a long time that there'll be further funding coming along soon. There are other differences in what we receive in Scotland that really show the difference between the commitment of local government and the way that they approach things. We get, for instance, free prescription charges, free personal care, no university fees, because again, they see it as an investment in young people. Sorry, I'm mixed up here. It's our job in the people-led policy panel and also in human rights as people with lived experience to keep them honest, shall we say, and on track so that they're not bringing in things that are going to impinge on our rights. They're not going to restrict us in any way. And the people with lived experience are not just going to be putting in their little bit at the beginning and let the experts get on with the rest of it. We'll be there right the way through until the National Care Service is actually launched, and we'll be there afterwards doing the monitoring phase 2. So there are big differences between Scotland and England, but again, as I said earlier, it's about social and financial priorities of the government, and we'll just have to wait and see how that works out. I can only say from my experience at the moment, everything's been positive. There's been 1 or 2 niggles, of course. We had to, for instance, bring them up short when they said that, well, the people-led policy panel will not want to get too involved in the technical aspects of putting the bill on statute. In other words, we weren't competent enough to do it. You soon got a smack over us for that, I can tell you. Yeah, so there's much more I can say about it. And I'm sorry I've had to try and cram it into 15 minutes. But if anybody's got any questions, quite happy to answer them. My apologies.
Alex, thank you so much. I'm sorry you had to cram it in as well. I think we've got so much to say here. We could spend a whole day on each of these presentations, but thank you so much for giving us that snapshot. Many people are showing and saying their appreciation. And many people are saying they'd like to move to Scotland. So,
well, strangely enough, it'll be about 4 years ago when all this was in the melting pot. As I had a meeting, well, a few of us had a meeting with the minister. One of the questions I asked her, I said, "What are you going to do about the immigration problem?" She says, "What do you mean immigration problem? How's that going to?" Well, it says the immigration problem of all the disabled people coming from England to Scotland to receive social care that actually means something. Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, yeah, very fun. Yeah.
thank you, Alex. We have Deborah. I see you've got your hand up, but before we come to you, Deborah, Talim, you had your hand up before we went to break, and I forgot to come straight to you. So do you have a quick comment or question, Talim?
It's really to do with the human rights side of things, because I think with that side it gets lost in a lot of things, and that includes inside the law aspect, and it's kind of being able to kind of bring that back into the forefront, because I think we kind of lose that. We're dealing with at the moment a case going forwards of someone who's gone through coercive controlling behaviour, from which is the young person's a victim with a disability, and we've come across this whole thing of inside there trying to get the law to take it as serious, because the individual has come up to 18 and it's just literally we don't even know where to go, because we've reached out to so many different organizations, and this person still is waiting since December to be able to actually have their statement taken, because the services didn't put in the intermediaries, which they're supposed to do. But their human rights, just from the fact of going through the whole crime, lack of support, everything, it's just a shambles. And we kind of come across that mental capacity doesn't come into play, because according to the law, it's about whether they can actually actively do things, but if they aren't able, because they're vulnerable, to keep themselves safe from stuff like that happening, there is literally, we're just hitting brick walls.
I am sorry to hear that, Talim, but thank you for that comment, and thank you for bringing us back to human rights.
Because it's quite a national thing, and I found out reaching out to a lot of agencies and a lot of charitable organisations, they're all got the same situations.
Yeah, thank you, Talim. Deborah, could we come to you quickly, and then we are going to hear from Emma. Deborah.
I'm just going to ask Alex about this national care service. Is that going to be like UK-wide or just Scotland?
Sorry, could you repeat that? Sorry, I was...
You know the national care service that you were talking about, is that going to be UK-wide or just Scotland?
No, social care provisions devolved to the Scottish Parliament. It'll only be, unfortunately, within Scotland. But we hope that it's going to be an exemplar for other UK nations to follow. But again, it's politics, local authorities, vested interests, as you know, we've seen it all before.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Before we move on to Emma, I just wanted to suggest something about calls for action, because we're running out of time. We're running a little bit late. Our last speaker isn't here yet, so we're thinking he probably won't be coming. But if you would like to, in the meantime, be putting any ideas for action, small actions, large actions, nothing too small, nothing too big, into the chat. then we will start to gather that. We will have time after Emma's presentation to have some discussion, but just not as long as we thought we would have. Over to you, Emma.
Thank you, Pippa. I'm just going to try and host several participants screen sharing. Katie, would you mind making me a co-presenter? I think. Oh no. There we go. Can you all see my screen? Is that okay? Thank you so much for inviting me to speak to you all at your workshop. My name is Emma Ryan, and I'm here to talk to you about my research project. Right. So I have worked for a local authority for within the direct payments support service for over 6 years. And I've seen how direct payments can be both a blessing and a curse. And this has been caused by changes to local and national policies, which have either by systematic fault or design, reduced personal freedom and choice, and increased responsibility, liability, bureaucracy. And so as an insider, I've seen the impact of these changes on people, and how the pandemic provided us with an opportunity to see things differently. Bureaucracy was reduced, different questions were asked, and these insights led me to question how the system currently operates and at what price. So when the opportunity arose to apply for an NIHCR fellowship, which was very unexpected, I knew that it was a valuable opportunity to find answers to the questions that I had. I was accepted onto the fellowship, and in September 2021, last year, I embarked upon a master's in social research at the University of Leeds. Within my application, I proposed a research project that would focus on direct payments and social care contributions. From my position within the system, I had seen instances whereby people who, for various reasons, were either unwilling or unable to pay their contribution. And as the direct payment was being paid net of the contribution, I was interested to understand the impacts and experiences of that situation, and how people prioritised their care and personal finances. My aim is to gather insight into the lived experience of people who receive a direct payment and have been assessed to contribute towards their care. And it's with the hope that this knowledge will be used by local authorities to inform their practice and recognise how financial assessments and contributions can have consequences for both the person and the direct payment that they receive. My research methodology has incorporated a mixed methods approach. So I've compiled an online survey, which has just recently closed. I had 150 people that accessed the survey, and it was completed by 23 people. Within the survey, I invited people to offer me their contact details if they were interested in being approached by me to be involved in a semi-structured interview, and those are just currently ongoing at the moment. I've kind of compiled a few initial findings, and so firstly I wanted to kind of get an understanding of what level of contributions people were paying, and obviously, as you can see, the majority of people who responded to the survey were paying between £51 and £100 per week. I also asked about the affordability of social care contributions. So in graph 1, I asked the question, thinking about the money that you pay towards your social support, do you consider the amount that you pay into your direct payment account to be affordable? And obviously, well, as you can see, just under 60% of the respondents stated that they found their social care contribution unaffordable. I then asked what paying money towards your social care how that impacted on your ability to manage your spending. And again, an overwhelming majority stated that, well, it was 70% stated that their contribution impacts on their ability to manage their spending, either a lot or a little. I asked people to add any comments that they wanted to make after those questions. And these are some of the things that were said. So somebody said that they wish that they didn't have to make a contribution. It makes them worried, and worried about the fact that if they can't afford the contribution, then they won't be able to access their care. Other people said that they were struggling to pay energy and bills and food. Somebody made the point that the minimum income guarantee is too low for long-term quality of life. And another person mentioned that they felt really out of control and dependent on family members. So a lot of the comments shared the anxieties of financial uncertainty and the indignity of being reliant on others, either in the sense of supporting with finances or being assessed. Other questions that I asked were around whether people had appealed their social care charges. And so, as you can see in the first graph, 73% stated that they hadn't appealed. Reflectively, I've kind of thought, oh, I wonder why that is. So maybe should have asked that question, but didn't. But of the 27% that did or have appealed their social care contribution charge, 83% received an unsatisfactory outcome, which is quite staggering. Again, unfortunately, I didn't really go into the depth of what the unsatisfactory outcome was. Another question that I did was a scale question, and that was around people's understanding, whether they felt confident or very unconfident about various aspects of the the financial assessment process. And so I asked, how confident are you in your understanding of the financial assessment? And 30% people are very unconfident. Sorry. Again, I invited people to add any comments that about their experiences. And some people mentioned that they found that and this was around appealing their financial contribution. So people were stating that they felt that people weren't bothered, and as in the financial assessors, not bothered, determined to make you pay. Somebody was really concerned that they didn't want them to take their care away because they couldn't contribute. Another person mentioned that they didn't know that they could appeal. And then finally, somebody had mentioned that the DRE was very unclear, the process was very time consuming and impacted on their health. Finally, I posed a hypothetical question at the end of the survey, which asked, if you didn't have to pay a contribution towards your social care, how would you spend this money instead? And this word cloud illustrates the basic necessities that people feel that they're unable to afford whilst being assessed to contribute towards their care. Of the 16 respondents that answered this question, just under half, 43%, included the word food in their answer. So if the respondents didn't have to contribute towards their care, they would buy food, which has just absolutely staggered me and really kind of emblazoned the fire in my belly to do what I can. It's my aim that this research project will provide a foundation for my plans to apply for the doctoral fellowship. I'm passionate about the work I do with direct payments, and I'm working to develop my skills and experience as an academic practitioner. I support the movement to recreate social care that authentically advocates for and reflects a system which is compassionate and enables people to live life that is as meaningful and diverse as we all are. Thank you so much for your time. Got a picture of a dog. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
Stop sharing. There we go.
We really appreciate you sharing that research. We've had much talk in these sessions and in other workshops around care charges. And there is much appreciation for you in the chat and from people's screens. So thank you so much for sharing. Right, now I think our final speaker is unfortunately not here, and I haven't heard from him. So we will move on to discussion and your ideas for call to action. If you would like to talk, if you could either put up your hand physically or put the little hand emoji up on your screen, we will come to as many of you as we have time for. Anyone like to start?
Sorry, Pippa, what are we doing?
Oh, Gemma.
Sorry, I missed that. I must have missed that. I was talking to Charlotte to tell her I was staying another 5 minutes.
We're moving on to a discussion, Gemma.
Okay. Okay.
So the idea of the discussion is that people give their ideas for a call for action. So there's some ideas been coming up in the chat, but before I haven't had time to really look at them and go through them. Tess, let's come to you.
Okay, I've raised this before. I'm banging on about something that really winds me up. And I have put it in the chat and I hope people understand it. And this is for people who employ their own care staff. My local university used to be a good source of new recruits. I could put an advert on the jobs board and we'd get a good number of, we'd get some applicants. In recent years, they have decided that people who employ a person in their own home may not be bona fide employers, and will not post our adverts. So, and I took this to the, and it turns out it's not restricted to my university. Certainly, I'm between Edge Hill and UCLan in Lancashire. Both of those follow this rule that they won't take adverts from people who employ their own staff in their own home for social care. You can be the worst employer in the world, they don't seem to care, but for us, they won't take our adverts. They cite NACIS, which I think stands for National Association of something in Student Employee Services, something like that, who do put out guidance on taking care and having they've got a duty of care in accepting adverts. But there's some interpretation to get to the point where they say, oh, we don't like your adverts, we can't check whether they're right, which is a nonsense. I would like some power to be brought to that, to persuade universities that this is out of order, and they shouldn't be discriminating against us. I don't know if there is a way that that can be taken up somewhere. I can't take it any further, but I do find it appalling.
Thank you, Tess, much appreciated. Maureen, could we come to you now?
I'm trying to find my mute button and get it to work. Just to quickly, in response to what was just said by the previous speaker, I had a similar experience. We used to have all our best, most personable, inclusive PAs were from universities. They stopped and they quite said it was data protection, that private individuals cannot have access to the details of other individuals to the degree that we required for the application to receive applications. So we've had to do it through our advocacy and disability organisation locally, who curiously don't think that's a good source of PA support. It amazes me because, as I say, and I stressed with them that we've always had the best from the universities. However, yeah, if you can find a way of rectifying, changing that situation, fantastic. The other reason I was called for action, I just wanted to agree with somebody else who put a post about having some positive, a session maybe on positive experiences, purely positive, affirmative action that people can take, and experiences that people have had. I find that very inspiring and encouraging. And then also I made a suggestion earlier in the chat about having a session on intersectionality. Yeah, those are the things that I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Much appreciated. One of the things that we are doing at Bringing Us Together is putting together ideas for workshops in the autumn. So some of these things that are being suggested now, we can put into that pot and hopefully do something with, so that we can put on such workshops. Anyone else who would like to say anything? You're all very quiet this morning. I'm just flicking through Tom. Tom, let's come to you. Thank you.
Hello. What I've seen of this event, it's like all your events, it's excellent. I'm sorry I've joined you late and I'm juggling other stuff and I've got a scratchy microphone, so bear with me. As always, it's been very informative. You know, we're all going to be moving up to Scotland, you know, that's the point. And then we can moan about the bloody English down south together. That would be a new theme, new manifesto for change. Emma's initiative. I'm really pleased to see Emma doing some informed and sensitive individual focused research on direct payments. I've been involved with various research projects in the past, and I've been sent possibilities of conducting research into social care charges. I'm just throwing it out, and maybe we can do this together. I've already spoken to another advocate about that, so that it's done in an informed way, not just to get people's perspectives, that's important, but to do it in a legal framework as well, so that it actually brings up challenges at the end for conclusions, and that's what I like to look at. Keep up the good work, hope we can cooperate, because there's huge injustices out there. I'm not going to waffle on for longer, not just in social care, but in institutional care. And I think the two issues are related in terms of a system which is vague, opaque, evasive, and driven by money, which goes right out of, you know, you're dealing with huge budgets which go right off our levels here. And it's a shared agenda of the injustices that came out really recently in Northern Ireland. The injustices that are faced here in social care, they're actually linked, in my opinion.
Can I just respond? Thank you, Tom. I'd love to collaborate with you. And actually, I meant to say in my presentation that one of my limitations of my research time, learning, what was that I couldn't really do as much co-production as I'd have liked to. One of the things that I've kind of come across, or a paper that I've come across And my research is from Prido et al. And he talks about how work should be reconfigured. The idea of what work is could be reconfigured. You know, direct payments, and not just, you know, signing checks and, you know, popping a letter in the post box once a month or whatever. It's work. You know, it's akin to potentially running a small business. You know, keeping people well, the legal responsibilities for one. You know, everybody is so everybody is individually obliged, legally obliged to be a good employer, and that in itself, if that does not suggest that there is a work element to this. And so I think, you know, why is somebody who has a direct payment paying the council for the privilege of doing their job for them? Maybe I shouldn't say that as a local authority employee, but I think it's a question that needs to be asked. And from a local authority employee perspective, I would really like to see a space where I'm not afraid of saying what I want to say. You know, you're kind of told about, you know, don't get political, or you've got to toe the line, and this is the way we do things. But I think it's really important that, you know, as my slide, the tent, I'm inside the system and I can see things, and I ask questions because I need to ask questions. It's just the way I am. But yeah, thank you for the comments, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Deborah, can we come to you?
Yeah, I was just thinking, as part of obviously our social work degree, I am quite newly qualified, so I am aware of what we do in the universities. We do what we call skills days, which they have people that come and talk to them, and it might be worth sharing some contact details with some of the Bradford University, so you can come as experts by experience and deliver some of these workshops to them, because I think it's really important to us as learning social workers to understand what everybody feels when we're providing care for them. And on top of that, what we also do is an assisted and supported year in employment. And as part of that as well, Bradford Council, the makers attend 10 workshops, and it could be like beneficial liaising with the ASYE coordinators that deliver them workshops to attend them for the newly qualified as well.
Thank you, Deborah. Great ideas there. We are coming to, it's nearly 1 o'clock. So we are nearly at the end of this workshop and this series of workshops. I'd just like to thank all our presenters this morning and everyone for coming, everyone for being here. We really appreciate your presence here, the fact that you've taken time out to join us. And we will be in touch. We'll send the recording link out. Please keep in touch with us, send us your ideas, send us, sometimes it's after these workshops that we can come up with ideas for action or any thoughts that you have. Please do stay in touch. Katie, before we finish, would you like to say anything?
I just think it's been a fantastic, really proactive session, and the speakers have all been brilliant as usual. All the speakers that we've had have been exceptional, and all the comments and everyone who's contributed. Thank you so much. We were going to take a break in running workshops over the summer, but we will be putting our heads together to plan workshops for next year. So your ideas have been really, really useful. And like Pippa says, do send us any comments after this session when you've had a bit of time to think. And yeah, a huge thank you for everybody who's taken part in these sessions, and those of you who've been to every single one, and those who are new today. And we will see you at some sessions between now and we've got 3 sessions coming up in June, and then a break, and then we'll be back in September. So thanks to everybody.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, everyone. I will be in touch with you all I'll send you the link, and I'll send you any resources, any email addresses.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. It's been really useful, this. Thank you.
Thanks
Good.
for being here.
Thank you both. Really, thank you all. Sorry, Anne. Thank you as
Oh,
well. And
thank
Nadia.
you, Emma.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch with you, Emma, especially
Yeah,
if
definitely.
you want to put in your PhD, and then you've got more capacity to involve direct
love
payment
that, yeah.
users at the beginning.
Definitely, yes. No, I will get my dissertation out of the way first, and then I'll get some ideas, and yeah, I'll be in touch. But you know, even if that doesn't come off, it'd be great to just keep involved with everything. Really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Anne. Thanks everybody for being here. Hi, Nad. Hi, Nad. Tom will be in touch. We'll get
Hope
that
so.
meeting sorted
Let's have a chat soon.
very soon.
And yeah, look forward to a tea and a biscuit.
Yeah.
That gets
Great.
maybe some haggis if we all go up to Scotland together.
We're all moving to Scotland, Nadia.
Yeah, there's some nice views up there as well.
Mhm.
Thank you again.
Thanks, Tom.
All the best, Pippa. Really
Yeah,
well
and
done
you.
for this. It's terrific. Nadia, I'm not putting it in a chat. It's wonderful to see you taking part in this, and hopefully we can catch up soon. Let's work together.